Well, good morning, Mount Hermon United Methodist Church. I'm coming to you today from the friendly confines of my man cave here at home. Thought I would be as comfortable as I hope you are this morning watching this video devotion. In our annual Christmas letter last year, the theme of it was really transition. It was a year of transition, 2019, for our family in many ways. Don't know if that was prophetic or not, but that was sort of the theme. Mount Hermon finds ourselves in a time of transition along with everybody else right now. We're learning new ways to do church, having done our first virtual worship service last Sunday. Only had one Mount Hermon moment, and thought that was very appropriate and very good the way we did it. I don't really know what this means, but I understand it's had over 400 views out on Facebook. I love that we are figuring out new ways to connect. But you know, life is full of times of transition, of change, of evolution, if you will. That's a good thing if we embrace it and if we find the ways to make the best of changing times. What incredible opportunities we have and are already taking advantage of. Many of you know that for the past 7 years, I've spent a lot of time with the Grace Christian Academy football program, volunteering as the director of football operations. I hung that up this past fall, and that is definitely something that's going to be strange this coming fall, a transition, if you will. For several of those years, our son played football. For several of them, he didn't. A lot of people would ask me why I would devote that kind of time for a team that my son wasn't playing for, and to be honest, it is because I really enjoyed being around young boys, or not really young boys, middle school age boys, and watching them grow up through high school and transition from being snotty-nosed middle schoolers that thought they knew everything to young men who figured out that they still had a lot to learn. It's been fun to watch them grow up to be leaders and see how their lives are impacting our world. Every season, the senior class would sort of have a theme. The class of 2018 had a theme of leave a mark. I had shirts printed up, leave a mark. I'm wearing a shirt today. That was an interesting group of young men, without doubt. They had come up together, most of them playing football together, and they were thick as thieves, as they would tell you. And their senior year, they had to face a lot of transition. A new head football coach, new position coaches, a new offense they needed to learn, totally opposite of the offense they had grown up knowing, new defense structure, a lot of transition during that time. And some of them embraced it and really did well. Some of them sort of got the hair up on their neck at times when, you know, it wasn't the way they knew it, and kind of wish they could go back to the former days. But they had to go through those transitions, and I remember that was one of the toughest years when we lost that final game in the playoffs, to say goodbye to the football field with that group of young men. So what in the world does that have anything to do with the church, with a devotion, where we find ourselves today? I would suggest that many of us are embracing this time of transition and learning new things, while many people are really having a hard time, understandably, with so much uncertainty. But we are in transition. But we will emerge from all this social distancing. The doors of our church will be open once again for whosoever will enter in. Y'all know one of my favorite scriptures is the account of Jesus' transfiguration on Mount Hermon. That day he took Peter, James, and John up on the mountain, and he was engaged with Moses and Elijah in conversation as they came down to affirm the time of transition that Jesus was approaching. They affirmed that The way he was going into Jerusalem, the way of the cross, is exactly why the Word had become flesh to dwell amongst us. And he needed that time of affirmation to face those transitions he was going to face. The reason that story is one of my favorites, it isn't because of the actual transfiguration. It's because of Peter's reaction. Peter reminds me that human nature hasn't really changed that much. I can relate to Peter in a lot of ways. Peter wanted to stay there on the mountain. They had transitioned up to that beautiful place. He had witnessed something amazing. His human nature wanted him to remain there. He asked Jesus if they could, and Jesus said no. We've got to make another transition back into the real world, back down into the valley where life was not always nice. It wasn't always perfect. Like us, Peter struggled in those times of transition to understand. We want to be in a perfect place. We want things to go back to normal. We want things the way we want them instead of the way we find them. Right now, it is an unusual time, but I would again remind myself, that this is a temporary situation. We're going to get through it together. And as we do, let's hear the words from Paul when he wrote to the church at Rome. And we are conscious that all things are working together for good to those who have the love for God and are marked out for his purpose. God has put a mark on us as followers of Jesus Christ. Let us leave a mark in the world today, finding a way to do something kind, something good, something uplifting for someone else. Enjoy the day, friends. I've got to get up and get ready to go to work. Be blessed.